I still remember the sound of the door locking behind me. It wasn't just the click of metal, it was the moment my own son decided I no longer mattered. He stood there, polished and calm, and said, "You're better off here, Dad. Trust me." That's when I knew this wasn't about care. This wasn't love. This was control. I wasn't sick, I wasn't confused, and I sure as hell wasn't ready to be thrown away like an old chair in the attic. And yet, there I was, in a place that smelled like bleach and silence, while my house, the home I built with my own hands, sat empty. For now. He thought that signing a few papers would be the end of my story. But it was just the beginning. Because a father never forgets betrayal, especially when it comes from his own blood. And what he didn't know was that I still had one card left to play. I was never the kind of man who asked for much. Give me a solid roof, a warm cup of coffee, and a good day's work, I was content. I built my life with wood, sweat, and quiet determination. Raised 2 boys on my own after their mother passed. Nathan and Leo. 2 completely different sons, born of the same love. Nathan, the older one, was sharp, ambitious, always looking ahead. He wanted the best schools, the big city job, the clean suits. He didn't have time for small-town living or listening to old stories around the dinner table. He said I was stuck in the past. Leo, on the other hand, he stayed close. He'd come by on Sundays just to sit on the porch, fix a squeaky hinge, or bring over a casserole. Didn't ask for much, just made sure I was okay. He'd always say, "Dad, I don't need you to talk. I just like being here." After my fall in the garden last spring, Nathan swooped in. Told me I couldn't live alone anymore. Said I needed monitoring. Told me this was for my own good. I agreed to stay with him in the city for a few weeks, just until I healed. But I could already feel it, his home wasn't my home. He scheduled appointments I didn't ask for. Whispered on the phone when he thought I was asleep. He smiled at me the way people do when they're talking to someone they don't think is all there. That's when I knew something was coming. Something I wasn't ready for. And something he never expected me to fight. I may be getting old. But I haven't forgotten how to protect what's mine. Especially when it comes to family and freedom. It started small, so small, I almost missed it. Little things. Like how my phone suddenly stopped ringing. Or how Nathan always seemed to be nearby when I tried to make a call. "Rest, Dad," he'd say. "You don't need to be stressing about anything right now." And for a while, I believed him. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe I did need rest. But then, I tried calling Leo one evening. Went straight to voicemail. Tried again. Same thing. Then I asked Nathan, "Have you heard from your brother?" He shrugged. "Nope. He's probably busy." But something in his tone didn't sit right. Too casual. Too rehearsed. A few days later, I noticed my wallet was missing. Nathan said he'd moved it somewhere safer. When I asked where, he changed the subject. That night, I stayed up after he thought I'd gone to bed. He was in the living room on the phone, talking low, pacing. I only caught pieces. Just waiting on the papers to clear. He's not fighting it, he trusts me. Once the house is in my name, we can. My heart dropped. I felt like I was sinking inside my own skin. I wasn't sick. I wasn't losing my mind. But my son was talking like I was already gone. The next morning, he came into my room with a folder. "Some insurance forms," he said, "just routine." I opened them. Nothing looked routine. Legal terms. Signatures. And one page that said transfer of property rights. I looked him in the eye and asked, "What is this?" He smiled and said, "Just a precaution, Dad. So I can take care of everything in case anything happens to you." That's when something shifted inside me. I'd spent my whole life fixing broken things, fences, chairs, floors. Now I realized I had to fix something far more important, the truth. I pretended to go along with it. Signed one of the papers, but not the one he wanted. Then I asked to go for a walk. Clear my head. Nathan agreed, but sent a nurse with me. He thought I was slipping away. What he didn't know was, I was waking up. I just needed one chance. One quiet moment to find out what was really going on. And who was really behind it. That moment was coming. And I was ready. It's a strange feeling when your own life starts to feel like a setup. Not a tragedy, not even a mistake. But something carefully planned, behind your back, by someone you love. Every day started to feel more controlled. I wasn't allowed to drive. Couldn't go out alone. Nathan said it was for safety. He even had cameras installed around the house. Just for peace of mind, he claimed. But whose peace was he talking about? Sure wasn't mine. I asked again about Leo. Why he hadn't come by, why he hadn't called. Nathan gave the same excuse. He's busy with work. You know Leo, flaky as ever. But that didn't sound like Leo. He'd never go this long without checking in. I checked my phone. Leo's contact was gone. Vanished. When I asked to use Nathan's laptop to check something, he hesitated. Then offered to look it up for me. That night, I waited until he fell asleep. I crept out of bed and checked the hallway drawer. That's where he kept the unopened mail. Buried beneath bills and flyers, I found it. A letter addressed to me, postmarked from Leo's city. Unopened. I tore it open quietly. Inside, Leo wrote that he'd been trying to reach me for weeks. He said he'd been blocked on my phone. That every time he tried to visit, Nathan said I was either sick or unavailable. My hands shook. Not from age. From betrayal. I knew I had to act, but I couldn't confront Nathan, not yet. So I played along. Nodded when he talked about transition planning. Smiled when he mentioned the burden of independence. And every night, I gathered clues. I noticed a folder he always kept locked in his briefcase. One morning, he forgot to lock it before leaving for a business call. I opened it. Inside were legal documents already in process. Guardianship papers. Power of attorney requests. A draft of a petition claiming cognitive decline. There was even a real estate assessment of my house. Like I was already gone. I didn't cry. Didn't rage. I just stood there and stared at the papers that erased me. He thought he was being smart. That I was too old or too tired to notice. But I wasn't the one who underestimated his opponent. He was. Because while he was busy building a case to control me, I was building something else. A way out. A way to take back what was mine. And it started with one person I knew I could still trust. I didn't expect her to help me. She was just a nurse at the facility Nathan brought me to after claiming I needed full-time care. Said it was temporary, just to evaluate my condition. But nothing about that place felt temporary. The doors locked behind me. My phone was taken. The staff spoke to me like I was a child. Slow, simple, careful. Like I might break at any second. But I was still me. Still watching. Still listening. And then came her, Maria. A nurse no older than my youngest granddaughter, but with eyes that saw more than most. She'd bring my meals, check my vitals, and ask questions no one else did. Do you remember what day it is? Would you rather eat in the sunroom or here? Do you want me to call someone for you? At first, I thought it was routine. But then she leaned in one morning and whispered, "You don't belong here, do you?" My throat tightened. I nodded. Very slowly. That's when she slipped me a file from the desk across the hall. She said she shouldn't be showing me this, but she had a grandfather once, too. Inside was a copy of my diagnosis. Dementia. severe cognitive impairment. But here's the twist: I had never been evaluated. Not once. That diagnosis was written by a doctor I'd never met. Signed off on a report I'd never seen. All filed through Nathan's lawyer. My entire identity, rewritten on paper. According to those pages, I was already gone. A hollow shell. A legal ghost. And that's when it hit me. Nathan hadn't just been planning to take everything. He'd already done it. The house. My accounts. My decisions. Even my voice. Except for this one moment of truth, thanks to Maria. I asked her to help me make one phone call. She hesitated, then nodded. That night, she slipped me her personal phone during her break. I dialed Leo. He picked up on the second ring. "Dad?" His voice cracked. "Where are you? I've been trying to find you for weeks." And in that moment, the pieces finally snapped together. The missing calls. The blocked number. The lies. Nathan had buried me while I was still breathing. But Leo, he hadn't given up. I told him everything. The facility. The forged papers. The fake diagnosis. He didn't hesitate. "I'm coming. Tonight." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. Nathan thought he'd silenced me. But he forgot something. You can't bury the truth. Not when it still knows how to speak. And not when it still has someone willing to listen. Leo didn't wait. He drove through the night 6 hours without stopping. Said he didn't care about the speed limit or the weather. He just needed to see me with his own eyes. When he walked into that facility, I'll never forget his face. It was like seeing someone punch through a wall with nothing but sheer will. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just walked straight to the front desk and said, "I'm here for my father. And I'm not leaving without him." They tried to block him. Told him I was under protective care. But Leo had come prepared. He pulled out a folder, every message I'd sent, the letter he wrote that Nathan hid, and most importantly, the contact of an attorney friend who specialized in elder law. He demanded a second opinion on my mental state. Said the facility was holding me illegally under a false diagnosis. Things moved fast after that. Too fast for Nathan. Within 48 hours, Leo had the court involved. We were granted an emergency hearing. Nathan showed up in a tailored suit with his lawyer, calm and smug. He walked into that courtroom like a man certain the game was already won. But this time, he wasn't the only one with paperwork. Leo's lawyer presented everything. The forged diagnosis. The medical records that didn't exist. The financial transfers already in motion. And most damning of all, my recorded testimony from the facility, arranged by Maria. The judge sat silent for a long time after hearing it all. Then she looked Nathan dead in the eye and said, "This isn't care. This is theft with paperwork." Nathan's face went pale. No more fake smiles. No more polished words. Just a man caught holding the shovel over his father's grave. A grave he was still trying to dig while I stood there watching. The judge immediately revoked Nathan's power of attorney. Ordered a full investigation into the forged documents. And just like that, I was free. But I wasn't interested in revenge. I wasn't interested in dragging his name through the mud. I just wanted one thing, my home. The place I built with calloused hands and quiet pride. I stood outside that house a few days later, staring at the porch I once repaired with Leo when he was a teenager. He handed me the new deed. Legally signed over from me, back to me. Except this time, it had one change. My name. And Leo's. I told him it wasn't a gift. It was trust. Because the one son who stayed quiet was the one who listened. The one who didn't push was the one who protected me. Nathan left town after the hearing. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't apologize. And I didn't chase him. Some wounds have to be carried by those who cause them. But me? I went back to fixing the little things. The creaky floorboard. The loose shutter. The life I nearly lost to someone who thought age meant weakness. Let them think that. Let them think old men don't fight back. Because what Nathan didn't understand is that when you take everything from a man like me, you don't break him. You wake him up. And when we wake up, we don't just survive. We rebuild. Stronger than before. The house felt different when I walked back in. Not because anything had changed, but because everything had. I ran my hand along the banister, the same one I carved with my wife when we first moved in. The scent of old wood, dust, and memories hit me all at once. This was still my home. And finally, I was back, not just in body, but in spirit. Leo stayed with me that first week. He didn't say much. Just helped around the place like he always did. Tightened a loose pipe. Repaired the garden fence I'd been meaning to fix for months. Every now and then, I'd catch him watching me like he wasn't sure if I was really okay. I told him I was. But the truth? Something inside me still ached. Not because I'd lost the house. Not because I'd nearly lost my freedom. But because I'd lost a part of my own son. Nathan never reached out. Not after the court, not after the fallout. He vanished. Disappeared into whatever corner of the world made it easier for him to pretend he hadn't tried to erase me. And as much as I wanted to hate him, I couldn't. Because I still remembered the little boy who used to fall asleep on my chest after story time. The one who cried when his mother passed. The one who, once upon a time, just wanted to make me proud. I don't know where that boy went. But I hope he finds his way back someday. As for me, I found purpose again. Not just in reclaiming what was mine, but in using what I'd learned. I started volunteering at a local community center, not to teach, but to listen. Men and women like me, whose voices had been dismissed, whose rights had been quietly stolen. I shared my story. Not to dwell on the pain, but to remind them they weren't alone. That dignity doesn't expire with age. And that silence is not the same as consent. One afternoon, a woman approached me after I spoke. She was in tears. Her daughter had tried to place her in a care facility without warning. Said she was forgetting things. She told me, "Your story gave me the courage to fight back." That's when I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about all of us. We grow up believing that family protects you. And most times, they do. But sometimes, family is the first to take what they think you don't need anymore. Your keys. Your choices. Your name. But we are not disposable. We are not burdens. We are still here watching, thinking, remembering. And we deserve to be heard. The sun sets a little slower these days. I sit on my porch with a cup of coffee and Leo by my side. We talk about the little things. The weather. The garden. The past, when it comes knocking. I may be older. But I am not finished. Because the greatest strength I've found wasn't in holding on. It was in letting go of fear. And standing back up, no matter how long it took. This house may be built of wood and stone. But my story? It's built on something stronger. Truth. And no one can sign that away. You're better off here. That's what my son said as they locked the door behind me. A sentence so calm, so final, like a chapter closing without my permission. But I wasn't better off. I was discarded. Shelved. Misjudged. By my own blood. He thought getting older meant growing silent. He thought a few papers and a forged diagnosis could erase me. But age doesn't mean weakness. And silence doesn't mean surrender. I fought. Not with fists, but with truth. Not with rage, but with resolve. And I wasn't alone. Because one son still believed in me. One nurse still listened. One voice was enough to start the fire that burned the lie down to ashes. And now, I'm here. In my home. Not the biggest house. Not the fanciest. But mine. Every floorboard, every dent, every memory, mine. I live on my own terms now. I drink my coffee when I want. I take long walks without needing permission. And when the wind blows through the trees in the backyard, I remember what it means to be free. But this story, it's not just about me. It's about every mother, every father, every grandparent who's ever been told they don't know what's best for themselves. Who's ever been silenced by the very people they raised. So if you've got someone older in your life, someone who moves a little slower but still has stories to tell, don't just speak for them. Listen. Don't just protect them. Respect them. And if you're someone who's felt what I felt, that slow, creeping fear of losing your place in your own life, let this be a reminder. You are not invisible. You are not broken. You are not done. We age, yes. But we still have fire. We still have voice. We still matter. So share this story. Let it travel farther than the lies ever did. Because the more people hear it, the fewer sons will say you're better off here. And the more fathers will get to say, no, I'm better off home.